The Abarbanel, Dan Yitzchak Abarbanel, one of the great Mefarshim we have in Tanakh, and one of the fascinating and inspiring stories we have really in all of Jewish history. We can't do justice to Abarbanel in just a few minutes, his biography, what he's able to accomplish, what he produces, but just to get the basic sense, Abarbanel lives from 1437 to 1508. He is born in Lisbon, in Portugal, to a very prestigious family. If we need any proof that he comes from a prestigious family, it's this. This is the Abarbanel coat of arms. We think of a coat of arms as something that some dukes or earls, whatever, would have. The Abarbanel family has their own coat of arms. The Abarbanels, they trace themselves all the way back to David HaMelech. So that's not bad. The Abarbanel's father was a very important person in Portugal. He was best friends with the number 2 man in the country, the Duke of Braganza, who was also first cousins with the king. And Abarbanel was very good friends with all of that duke's sons, which makes him also close with the king of Portugal. And so for the first 40-odd years of his life, Abarbanel, things are great. He's able to learn. He's a genius in the world of finance. He's fantastically talented in the world of politics. He's connected as one could possibly be. Everything is amazing. And then he writes this in Hakdama right here. There's the title page of his Hakdama to Nevi'im Rishonim, or really this is Sefer Yoshua. And if you notice, by the way, here you have a lot of small text on the bottom, the big text on the top. The big text on the top is just the Abarbanel talking about his yichus, not so much his family meant to him. The Abarbanel writes that all of a sudden, the king dies, new king takes over. The new king turns on his advisors. And so Abarbanel's friend, the duke, goes for a meeting with the king, and all of a sudden he's arrested, accused of treason, and is executed. Abarbanel knows nothing of this. Abarbanel is summoned as well to the palace. Instantly, Abarbanel goes to the palace to meet the new king. And then on the way, he's in an inn, and he's tipped off at night in the hotel, saying, hey, you might want to make a run for it, because this invitation to the king's palace, you're not coming back. So Abarbanel faces a dilemma. That very night, Abarbanel writes, he says, okay, it's the middle of the night, so he's going to run for it. Now he knows if he makes a run for it, the guards of the king are going to stop him at the border. So he doesn't just run straight. He runs south. He runs around the guards. Is able to escape, and he gets to Spain. Now he had been fantastically wealthy. Now he has nothing. He has to leave his money behind. He has to leave his family behind. It takes him years to get his family back. He has to build everything up from scratch. But he has a little bit of time on his hands, and so Abarbanel, in 4 months, writes his long parish to Yoshua, to Shoftim, Shmuel Aleph, Shmuel Beis. 400,000 words. The Abarbanel writes it in 4 months. Perushim which are studied ad hayom hazeh. The length, the detail, the knowledge, quoting midrashim left and right, the sensitivity to pshat, unbelievable. Then Abarbanel is in Spain, and pretty soon he comes to the attention of some people we know about, Ferdinand and Isabella. Once again, Abarbanel rises. He becomes one of the most important people in the kingdom. His financial genius is essential to Ferdinand and Isabella, and for 10 years he works for them until 1492 comes along. And long story short, we know what happens in 1492. Ferdinand and Isabella decide to expel the Jews from Spain. Abarbanel is loyal to Yadus, and rather than convert Chas v'Shalom, he flees along with everyone else, and he runs away to Naples, Italy. Once again, for the second time, Abarbanel is left with no money, no job, and everything has been left behind. And once again, he builds himself up. He comes into contact with the king of Naples. His financial talents serve him very well. He becomes wealthy again. He becomes important again. Before doing that, the Abarbanel writes his Perushim on Sefer, his Perush on Sefer Malachim, where he describes everything in his Hakdama. Things are right. For the third time, Abarbanel has built himself up, and then for the third time, everything falls apart. The kingdom of France invades Italy. Abarbanel has to run away. He ends up on some small island, and once again, he lost everything. He was in Portugal, lost it all. In Spain, lost it all. In Italy, lost it all. And what does Abarbanel do? He just writes more Perushim. He writes his Perushim on Nevi'im Achronim. He writes on Chumash. He writes a Haggadah, the Zevach Pesach, the Haggadah, where he says, I remember when I was young and Haggadah was amazing, Pesach was amazing. Now, what do I have? I have nothing to celebrate Yetzias Mitzrayim with, just the Torah that I know that I'm able to share. And yet, once again, the Abarbanel builds himself up. He ends up in Venice and is essential to the Republic of Venice. It's a career which, in the world of politics, would be amazing. The world of the economy would be amazing. And yet, outstripping all of his contributions in the worldly affairs of state are his contributions in the world of Torah. His Perushim, which are essential. Just one piece, and with this we'll close. Abarbanel, if you've seen his style, he asks many, many, many fascinating questions. He then has very many answers. He's focused on Pshat, not afraid to argue with those before him. He has Perushim on Daniel, on the Mishnah Torah, on Pirkei Avos. Really, man, it touched everything. It's unbelievable. Just one thought I saw recently, apropos of the 3 weeks. So the Abarbanel asks, if you read in Yirmiyahu, so what happens? So we know that the Babylonians breached the walls. Okay, the Gemara talks about the fact, was Yerushalayim breached on the 9th or on the 17th of Tammuz? The Abarbanel has a discussion about that as well. But every single time that the walls of Yerushalayim are breached, so the Navi and Malachim and Yirmiyahu says that the walls were breached. It doesn't say that the Babylonians breached the walls. If you read the Mishnah Tainus, it says the same thing. So Abarbanel asks why that was. Why not say the Babylonians breached the walls? Explains the Abarbanel. He says by this point in the siege, Bnei Yisrael were so weak from hunger, they had no ability to even fight back. So the walls were breached because they were starving. They couldn't do anything about it. They couldn't even lift up a spear. They couldn't fight back. And when the Babylonians marched to finally break through the walls, they were unopposed. Okay, but then what's amazing is Tisha B'Av happens weeks later. So why does it take so long? What happens between Shavasar B'Tammuz and the 7th of Av, which is when the Babylonians finally access FYHS? And the Abarbanel says, what stopped them was the courage of Am Yisrael, that even though we were starving and we were so weak and we couldn't do anything as they were approaching the walls of Yerushalayim, in the last moment, all the courage came together. And we were able to pull out all the stops and hold them for day after day, despite being drastically outnumbered and outsupplied and out everything. Klal Yisrael stood together for day after day at the end. And it is that energy, that desperation, that emunah, which Klal Yisrael had for 3 weeks, the Abarbanel really exemplifies in a lifetime, where he builds and builds and builds and he reaches the highest heights, gets knocked down all the way to the bottom, builds himself up. He sees Klal Yisrael around him getting knocked down. We're going to stay loyal. We're going to build. We're going to learn. We're going to teach. And the legacy is something that all of us have down till this very day.